For many South Africans, Thailand is an exotic place of adventure and opportunity. But for some, the fast track to happiness can become a stairway to hell. In 2008, Nontando Pendu was offered a job in Thailand, but her trip of a lifetime became a life sentence, 25 years in prison for drug trafficking. She was 24 years old.
Without lawyer, I was by myself. The judge told me that he's giving me life sentence. But because I just accept from the beginning, so it will come down to 25 years.
Since 2009, Special Assignment has been investigating transnational drug syndicates. We've also focused on South Africans arrested abroad for drug smuggling and the agony faced by their families who emotionally are incarcerated alongside them. We believe that in some of these cases, they should be reclassified not as perpetrators of drug smuggling, but as victims of human trafficking.
Human trafficking right now is one of the most thriving industries, if indeed we can call it an industry, because what it has done is commodify human beings.
So a victim of human trafficking is a person who has been recruited and after recruitment has subsequently been mobilized. And one of the means which we often see in the overwhelming majority of cases of human trafficking is a person has been mobilized through the abuse of a position of vulnerability.
Victims of human trafficking are not just confined to sex slavery. They're not just confined to forced labor, but they are now being used for purposes of trafficking drugs without their knowledge in the recruitment process.
Nontando Pendu's case seems to fit this definition. Her story is one of betrayal, cruelty, greed, and heartbreak. It could have happened to anyone, particularly a young woman desperate to escape the poverty trap.
If you understand the structural inequalities and structural injustices, you realize that we have a copious amount of people who are predisposed to be taken advantage of, to be lied to, deceived, and to be recruited.
Tando's mother is a single, unemployed parent living in the Welkom township of Tabong. She used to make ends meet buying clothes from a wealthy woman called Tembi Dlamini. It was Tembi who offered Tando a lucrative job in Bangkok, driving ambulances. For a struggling young woman without a matric who had never travelled out of South Africa, it seemed like a dream job. But on landing in Bangkok, Tando discovered what the job really entailed.
I asked her about the job. How am I going to start? Because I don't know the place. I don't know how to speak Thai language. And then she told me, no, what you do here is drugs. So I was scared that when I told her that I cannot do it, she told me that I already buy a ticket for you. So you have to pay me back.
I was in Thailand at the time doing a story on South Africans incarcerated for drug trafficking. I visited Tando in La Diao, the women's section of Klong Prem, one of the most notorious prisons in Thailand, and without her knowledge, I recorded our conversation.
There are like 4 ladies, South African ladies also, and one guy, Nigerian guy. Even if you go to the shop, if you want to buy something, you send somebody to go with us.
She was actually a slave to these people.
Tando could not swallow the drugs, so they were strapped to her body like the arsenal of a suicide bomber. The drugs were destined for Hong Kong, but Tando never made it out of Bangkok. Customs had been tipped off. She was set up as a decoy while the 4 South African women carrying bigger quantities of drugs passed through customs without incident. When I returned from Thailand, I contacted Tando's heartbroken mother, Nozukile.
Mna uba bendikwazi ukudibana naye noNtando Butcha, amazwi benza umnika wona ngamazwi wokumkhuthaza uba omelele and azame ukuba unomonde.
Together, we set out to confront Thembi, the recruiter who had allegedly tricked and trafficked her daughter. Thembi's boyfriend became violent, and Thando's mother retaliated.
No! Hey!
At first, Thembi pleaded ignorance.
No, not me. I don't know about that. No. Real. I'm telling you the real truth.
Then she changed her tune.
It's true she was with me. She was there in Thailand. It's true. I can't say it's false. But about the smuggling, real, I was not there. I don't know. Even me, I was very shocked about that.
We laid charges with the National Prosecuting Authority against Thembi, who was allegedly a recruiter for a transnational Nigerian drug syndicate. But the case went nowhere. No police statements were taken from Thando. She was left to languish in prison.
The nexus between the drug trade, drug trafficking and human trafficking, that's something that we still grossly underestimate in South Africa, because part of the ABC of investigation is that you need to go abroad and you need to debrief your witness. Sadly, many of these victims languish away in prisons without us even lifting a finger. He even goes,
I approached Marcel van der Walt, a former investigator with the Hawks and an international expert on human trafficking, to understand why cases of human trafficking for the purposes of drug smuggling are not being followed up in South Africa.
Human trafficking, international drug trafficking is not possible without corruption and official complicity. It's just not possible. Many of these names that's been thrown around by victims of trafficking, by convicted prisoners that I've interviewed in prison, officials of the Hawks and prosecutors, are people who sit in positions of authority, many of them right at the top, who at least indirectly have some influence to exert in terms of not investigating and not processing evidence that's been provided to pursue transnational networks.
The 2019 United States report on trafficking in persons named South Africa as a major human trafficking hub.
Because of significant concerns of official complicity, i.e. corruption, the way that we fail in identifying victims, and then also funding, the lack or insufficient funding to actually implement our new legislation. Yes, there are some successes. We do see some convictions in our courts, but the scope of the problem far outweighs the few numbers that we are actually convicting.
This inaction would cost Thando over a decade behind bars, her human rights violated, locked up in shocking conditions, shut out from the world, her country, friends and her family.
I'm so sorry, because also she told me that she was crying when she told my mom that I'm here because of drugs. She was crying, so I'm sorry for that. Even myself, I didn't know it, so I'm sorry.
In 2014, I travelled to Thailand with Thando's mother Nozukile, her uncle Jabulani, human rights lawyer Sabelo Sibanda, and Honjizwa Mbewu, the mother of Nolubabalo Babsi Nobanda, another South African woman who had been arrested in Thailand during 2011 with cocaine concealed in her dreadlocks. We were assisted by Henk van Staan, a retired Belgian scientist. For decades, he has been the lifeline for South Africans incarcerated in Thailand.
Compared to the men in the beginning, when I started visiting them, the men, they were like in a 7-star hotel. And the women had a much tougher environment to live in. A lot of restrictions. They couldn't get any food brought in. They couldn't get anything sent to them.
Their law is not good at all. There's no human right. They don't have rights. If you don't plead guilty, your sentence will be higher than that.
The mothers were in Bangkok to visit their daughters and to beg for a royal pardon, but without the support of the South African government, their efforts were in vain.
Every time when I call the offices, which you need to call to follow up, they tell me, you know what, why do you expect a royal pardon if your own government doesn't support it?
The government does have an obligation to protect its citizens, especially in a scenario where they find themselves confronted with what within normal democratic societies could be considered as an unfair justice system.
South Africa is a signatory to the Vienna Convention, which prohibits interference in the laws of other countries. But South Africa is one of very few countries in the world that does not have a prisoner transfer agreement, or PTA. This is an agreement between countries that would allow for the transfer of their citizens to serve a latter portion of their sentences at home, close to their loved ones.
The mandate lies with the Department of Constitutional Development and Correctional Services. Now, we are aware that this is a matter that's been on their radar for a while. It's under discussion, certainly under consideration. It's not a simple issue, it's a very complex matter.
From a law enforcement and intelligence gathering perspective, I would argue that it's bizarre that South Africa, as one of a few countries, still don't have a prisoner transfer treaty.
The number of South Africans incarcerated abroad, we've got on our record 787, the majority of which are drug-related. 2018, 2017, we're talking about in the region of 696. So we're now on 787. So it's definitely going up, and it's a worrying trend. We've also picked up that a lot of the drug dealers are targeting the rural areas, young women in particular.
But unless and until a PTA becomes a priority, it's a case of out of sight, out of mind. Then, early this year, the newly crowned monarch of Thailand, who succeeded his deceased father in 2016, granted his annual amnesties to foreign inmates. This meant that Thando would be released in May and Bapsi in August. On May the 22nd, Thando was sent to Thailand's Immigration Detention Centre, or IDC. There, conditions were far worse than prison, with over 200 women sharing a 10-foot cell.
IDC is horrible. We sleep like sardines. If this one 10, and then we 10.
The South African government needed to verify her citizenship and issue her with a temporary passport. Once her papers were approved by the IDC and her ticket purchased, her return home should have been swift. But the process was dogged by delays on the part of our government, and Thando was held in the IDC for a month and subjected to further trauma.
In all cases where we're dealing with somebody who has been incarcerated, we understand the trauma that they would have gone through, the pain and suffering, especially somebody who was duped and is also a victim of human trafficking like she is. So we try by all means to understand that this is somebody who needs to get home fast. They need all the help they can get, and therefore the cases are handled with all the sensitivity and care that it requires. Having said that, mistakes do happen. Sometimes officials can mess up here and there, but it's never malicious.
It was due to the intervention of Johannes Strauss, a counsellor at Simcha Addiction Recovery Centre in Pretoria, and another source of support to South Africans incarcerated abroad and their families, that the Department of Home Affairs and International Relations sprang into action. Repeated calls to officials eventually yielded results.
I told him, but I have her unabridged certificate. He asked me to send it and her family's phone numbers, her mother's phone number. I sent everything to him. About 3 hours later, I received a phone call from him, and he told me he already emailed everything to Thailand, to the embassy, and tell them that they can carry on to give her a one-way passport, temporary passport.
Henk van Staan raised funds for Tando's ticket, and the IDC finally booked her flight to South Africa for June the 22nd, a month after her release.
The changes that was here in this 11 years since she was incarcerated is so much that she might have a culture shock when she arrives home.
Hi mama, sengifikile now ngise-immigration. Ngicela ukuthi ngizolanda noma ngifike eJoburg. I miss you guys. Love you, bye.
Flight ET-809 from Addis Ababa is about to land. Thando Pendu is on that connecting flight from Bangkok.
I'm so excited to be back home. I feel like it's a dream. It's like I'm going to wake up and it'll be like, Pendu, go back to Lajao, where I come from. So every time I never slept.
It's an incredibly emotional and poignant occasion to be here waiting for Thando to arrive. The last time she saw her sister and brothers, they were children. Now her sister is a mother, her brothers are university students. Thando's mother is also here, with Thando's younger brother Kwanele, sister Sipho, other members of the Pendu family, and friends who supported her in prison.
Maybe I'm going to faint, but I want to hug her first and give a big kiss.
They are bristling with excitement, anticipation, and anxiety. Heavily armed policemen have been deployed to the arrivals section and are also waiting for Thando to disembark. They have been deployed to the airport by the Hawks Organised Crime Division because death threats had reportedly been made against Thando and her family by the syndicate that allegedly trafficked her. Apparently, the case against Tembi, the alleged recruiter, has been reopened 10 years after we first laid charges.
They've told us that they want to escort us to airport so that they can protect my sister. Because, you know, these drug things, we are not safe when we come back. Because they know that we are coming with, we are going to testify against them. So that's why they say they must come with us.
Thando has no idea what awaits her at the arrival gate.
You know, I've been sleeping on the floor for 10 years. I just want to relax on the bed, take a bath and relax.
As soon as she walks through the gate, she is cordoned off by the police officers. They whisk her and her family away as we chase after them. She is briskly escorted to the airport police station. Friends and family cram into the station to embrace her, crying with relief that she is safe, healthy and radiant.
It feels good. Oh, so good. I think it took me about 6 years to accept. I understand that I'm punishing myself. I have to forgive myself and just let it go. There were some days that I used to ask him, why God, why did you allow me to be here? Why didn't you crash me with the flight when I was coming here instead of just punishing me here? I asked those questions, but after I was like, no, Pendu, you're being selfish.
Prison life consisted of a cell shared with over 200 women and a dreary daily routine.
In the morning, we wake up 5 o'clock for prayers. And then 6 o'clock, they open the cell for us so that we can go downstairs to shower. After shower, we have to take our meal, 7:30. And then around 8 o'clock, we have our prayers again for our, like religious, like Christians, Muslim, whatever. We go to the groups for the prayers. And then from then, we go back to our working places. Because everybody has to work, even though there's no salary.
And nothing was for free.
Your uniform, your own uniform, in fact, it's a government uniform, but you have to pay for it. You have to pay for your toiletries. You have to pay your laundry, for your washing and ironing, everything you have to pay for it. Even hot water, you have to pay for it. My family, they never managed to support me because I understand my background is not rich. I survive about I have friends like Hazel, I have friends like Hanishi, and there's some missionaries that they always come sometimes and to support us. If you don't have anybody who come to see you, it's very difficult, especially for us foreigners, because we have to love each other there. We have to take care of each other. We are like sisters.
How many South African women are still there?
Before we were 10, so me, I'm out, so we are 9. They are 9. I share the cell with Babsi and the South Africans. Babsi, Michelle, Vanessa. Yeah, we are 3, and me.
But still in one big cell?
Yeah, we share the same room. We share the same room. We sleep in the same room. But our relationship is fine.
How do you feel about being here and the rest of the South Africans, although Babsi will be back?
I feel so sad for them that they're stuck there. I understand. Even the day I was leaving, when they came to send, because they sent me to the office where we have to sit there and wait for the immigration to come and pick us. They can still come and say bye or send some juice. When he came, I understand. I see on their faces. I understand like the stress. Like for me, I was so excited that I'm out. But when I look at them, I feel sad.
But there were also joyful times.
We also joined the Thai dancing. Yeah, it's so funny because we are foreigners and we be dressed in those Thai dress and we dance Thai dancing. It was so funny, and Thai people, they enjoy it because it's foreigners that are doing this thing.
You know so much about Thai now, you even dream in Thai.
Yeah.
Are you still dreaming in Thai?
I'm still dreaming in Thai. I think it will take time for me to come back to myself, because even there's some words that I cannot say with my own language or in any English. It's only in Thai, because now I'm perfect in Thai, writing and reading and speaking Thai.
Now that her dreams of being reunited with her family have come true, what are her plans now?
What came to my mind was like, Pendu, you have to try to talk about this human trafficking. They are all taking advantage to the young girls, especially the ones that are coming from the poor families and the ones that just want fast money. They are taking advantages and after, when you're in that trouble, nobody knows you.
I don't know about that. No, real. I'm telling you the real truth.
And what would she say to Tembi, the recruiter who allegedly tricked her into smuggling drugs?
I already forgive a long time. In fact, I can say I would thank her because I've learned what she can never get in life. The things that I learned inside and the confidence that I have in me now, I would never have if I was not there.
Then she is whisked away again under police guard to a place of safety. Hopefully, this time, the investigation into alleged traffickers will yield results. The road ahead will be challenging on so many levels, but for now, there is only one thought in Thando Pendu's mind.
I'm a free woman now. This feels good.